a power dynamic is necessary. I think oh gosh. Okay. This is a difficult yet necessary conversation. It goes to, and I want to come back to that. It goes to the overall point of the insertion of sexual violence. And in talking about Ida B. Wells read, talking about Ida B. Wells' reporting of the lynchings across the country, she noticed a pattern that there was a lot of white women that accused black men of raping them or assaulting them sexually or assaulting them physically. I think it was a little bit of both, but it was more of sexual assault accusations. Those usually sparked death and destruction. They were usually followed by a lot of death and destruction. And Ida B. Wells pointed that out in so many of these cases that she reported. But there was also one thing that she said about white women in these scenarios, which of course I agree. I have more thoughts about that, of which I did spill those thoughts in another separate recording. And that will be released at some point. But she said that in so many words, and of course I'm just paraphrasing or summing up what she said, something along the lines of black men knowing, having come out of slavery and having dealt with these people in the worst way, even when we didn't want to. For them to say that a black man was that foolish enough to mess with the white woman, I mean, that's just insulting. It's insulting to black women, but it's also insulting to black men. The atmosphere around black men interacting with white women was set before there was a huge emergence of slaves on this land. There was a law, and I want to say it was South Carolina. I believe it was one of the Confederate states, that black men could not look white women in the eyes when encountering them. They could not. It was against the law. So if I know that I could be lynched just from looking at this woman in her eyes, even if she talking to me, I can't even look her in her damn eyes. But I'm going to go further and actually take her sexually against her will. Well, I mean, then I'm looking for my death, right? Like I'm waiting for that. Like I know this is about to happen. Like I'm not just gonna do this and then just go, and go home to my wife. And just be chilling at home, about to barbecue and stuff. When I've done something that is beyond what the law is, what the law says, or what the law prohibits. But it goes even further. Now, black men were slaves, but they wasn't fools. If that was the case, they all would have been wiped out as soon as they got here. So, in Ida B. Wells's crusade against these lynchings, which she also was a heavy supporter of the women's movement. Hell, if you ask me, she started it. But, I mean, I guess that could be argued. Let's be clear. White women did not start a women's movement, okay? Especially not in this country. Let's be very clear about that. White women been white women the whole time they've been here. Why the hell they wait till the 1940s to start talking about women's rights? Come on now. Let's just be honest about that. It don't take no rocket scientist to figure that out. All that shit that was happening to them, that been happening to them. They didn't just suddenly get strong and bold in the 1940s, and in the 1920s, in the early 19th century, they didn't just all of a sudden get strong and bold. And don't tell me about no damn Susan B. Anthony. I do not want to hear that, okay? Because she was grown. Now, black women could not fight for equal treatment under the law. Hell, they had to be humans first. So you got a whole human over there that is okay for the past 150 years with her ass being treated like she ain't human. It's just as long as it's written human on her damn birth certificate. I mean, this is just foolish. I don't understand. People cannot believe these half-ass truths. But if they drill it to you enough, you will believe it. And that's kind of what happened to us. And that's why this podcast is here. So we can drill to you the opposite. So you can learn about this, and not in a nice way, and digest it, and really start questioning some of the narratives that are out here. Think about it. Now, 100 years later, I still can't even, fathom that or that thought process. But you have there's, evil and deviance all throughout humanity. So it could, it could be true in some cases. But I would say after integration, it's more likely that the quote-unquote inferior race would be more bold in their actions. So, black men can marry white women. So, you know, sexual violence happens in marriages, relationships. But they can look white women in the eye now. So, okay, if that's the case, that could very well be true, and it could be happening. But also, in those times or in those situations or scenarios, a lot happened in the days after. And if I'm a person who lived to see Tulsa, and black people talk, stuff get around. We talk, we pass messages to hearsay. Let me tell you, it took 2 years for them to find out that they were emancipated, but hell, it got to them. And believe me, the Union Army was all throughout, and they just forgot to tell us in Galveston that we had been free 2 years, okay? It's just, we got the information. It got out. It just took a little while, that's all. But black people talk, and if you lived through some of that shit, you heard about the shit that happened because Sally told her crazy ass, delusional fucking husband that a black man grabbed her by the wrist. You ain't touching no white woman. I mean, hell, I'm looking at men today like, why are you touching that fucking white woman? If you're black, if you're a black man, why the hell you touching that white woman? All she gotta say is, all she gotta say is, black man touch white woman. Your ass is going to the cross. They finna bury you on the stake. So I'm one to just be like, hey, if you ain't got to deal with it, don't deal with it, okay? We ain't there yet. Once we get there, then maybe. But we ain't there yet. No, let me not even say we not there yet. They ain't there yet, okay? They not. I think we fine in that area. We fine. But they not. So, and they are conscious of that reaction that typically happens. They are conscious of it, and they use it to their advantage, or to no advantage, because I don't see any advantage. Honestly, I don't see an advantage to it, but they do use it. It's even like, they started that whole law. I don't know if it was a law. I have to double check, but it became a law eventually. But it became statutory law. So it's statutory. That just means there is it just says this, a law states this. They had what we would call where you couldn't date somebody if they were a certain age. It wasn't date. Let me say that. So statutory rape is a statute that defines rape. So if someone is not of legal age of consent and someone else is, those two people can't have any sexual relations. The law states that. So until both are of age